While I want to make a full theory video on the Rootlands, as it's been a focus of mine on this channel, there's not enough information yet for me to say a lot. But I did start to speculate on the roots of the world trees penetrating the Rootlands, and I have some questions that maybe you'll find interesting. Even the world trees without the blessing of the aspects or Elune penetrate the Rootlands. Here in the subzones, we can see Teldrassil's roots breach here as well as Imiddrassil. Teldrassil and Andrassil fell to corruption, and it is through the roots of Andrassil that Yogg-Saron spread his influence into the dream, creating the nightmare, and then through the emerald dreamways which are represented on Azeroth through the great trees throughout the world. While Andrassil, Shaladdrassil, Alunahir, and Nordrassil aren't found on this list yet, it only makes sense for them to be here. It might also make sense for the roots of the clones of the great trees which make up the Dreamway to have a connection here. It is possible in my mind that maybe the land itself represents the spirit of Alunahir and that is why it is not present, but it may also just be a work in progress. Or perhaps that the Rootlands is more vast than what we can explore within the domain that contains the Rift of Aln. Something worthy of note to me is going back to the Stormrage novel from Cataclysm. Malfurion traveled to the Rift of Aln within the dream and said that just below it was the primordial essence of creation, and primordial forces such as the Nether and Void. And Bliss said at Gamescom and in interviews that the Rootlands is somewhere not quite in the material world. This means to me that it may be just another layer of the dream, or more likely it is in some sort of pocket dimension. The Harrandar as well as Blizzard say that the Rootlands was once the cradle of a sleeping goddess who left the cradle. This could mean many things, like that the Rootlands once cradled her in her infancy, but that she outgrew it, or maybe it implies something else in connection with the element of spirit. With regards to the element of spirit, there is an area called the Veiled Mist, but it's unlikely to me that this was once the resting place of the sleeping element of spirit. I do not necessarily think it was the resting place of Elune either, because the tale of Alunahir says Elune gave Eonor the branch from Gunnar, which would become Alunahir, and therefore lead to the creation of the Rootlands. So I lean towards the theory that when the World Soul was young, the Rootlands cradled it to protect it from the old gods or other forces, but that she outgrew her cradle eventually. I do find it curious that the roots of Teldrassil can be found here. Teldrassil was long hinted at being corrupted and had many indications since we woke there in Vanilla WoW on Night Elf characters. I hope that we will be confronting that corruption. You will notice there are many references to memories, secrets, grudges, and more. Perhaps we will confront the memory of Fandral, who planted the unblessed trees and was acting as a double agent for Twilight forces throughout history. But we will see soon, I am sure. And we learned the goddess dreams up gods. I would presume wild gods and ancients, or things of that sort. If I had to pose some questions to Blizzard, though, I would ask 1. Where will the sleeping worgen be? If you're not a worgen player, let me give you a quick rundown of the worgen. Long ago, the Druids were desperate in battle and sought out a secret Druid form. It was the Druid of the Pack form. The worgen were voracious and menacing, but delving into this pack form led to a decline in sanity and an inability to revert to their native forms. As a result, the Druids banned this form, and for those worgen who were too far gone, they were put to sleep beneath a tree. When we cut to the Cataclysm and do the worgen introduction quest, the people of Gilneas are desperate for a solution to their many problems. They found a tree which had grown to envelop Night Elf ruins, and an attendant who told them stories about it, like that they rest beneath a great tree within the dream to pacify them being the worgen. It was heavily implied that this great tree was connected to the other great trees, and we can find near the great tree in Duskwood many worgen deepening this connection. While we have not seen the worgen within the Emerald Dream, or the dream's version of this mythical tree, I think it would be most appropriate for us to see them resting within the Rootlands in a tranquil slumber among the roots of the trees which grew to devour or imprison their mortal bodies. My next question would be number 2. How will the Druss connect to the Harrandar? The Druss practice a sort of death druidism that is most likely derived from Ardenweald. They represent the season of decay, the season of autumn or fall. This is represented in the areas they occupy in Ardenweald, as well as their native zone of Dressvar. The trees in their domain bear golden and brown leaves, or are totally barren of leaves. Their vines and wicker appendages bear no flowers in bloom or leaves of their own either. But we see here that roots of some tree drink from the vile pool of energies in the heart of Waycrest Manor, And we know that even after his defeat, that Gorgthal's soul lingers within this tree in Dressvar where his forces emerge from. The nature of these roots and pool or this tree are unknown to us, and I choose to believe surely they have something of their own connected to the Rootlands, or perhaps a corrupted version of it, which maybe links them to Ardenweald. In contrast, the Rootlands links the material world to the dream. My next question would be number 3. How would the Cenarian Circle be blind or unknowing of the Rootlands? I find it difficult to believe that the Cenarian Circle or most Druids would be unaware of the Rootlands' existence. I find it absolutely impossible to believe that Cenarius or other wild gods would be unaware of its existence, because it is strongly stated in the origins of wild gods and strongly implied in the emerging lore about the Rootlands that wild gods were dreamt up here and emerged from Ungoro Crater, the Vale of Eternal Blossoms, and Shalazar Basin into the material world. Which brings me to my next question. Number 4. Will Zulaman or the Loa Island off its coast be the Eastern Kingdom's location of Freya's experiments? Look at this map. Freya channeled the Well of Eternity into locations around Azeroth's Spur Life. From these places, wild gods emerged: Ungoro and Kalimdor, Shalazar and Northrend, and the Vale of Eternal Blossoms in Pandaria. But so far, there is no confirmation of a place of interest like this in Eastern Kingdoms. Prior to Dragonflight, I always assumed it was the Dragon Isles because the Dragon Isles is a place with tons of evolution and the seat of power of the Lifebinder Alexstrasza, but there was no confirmation to this end, and still yet we do not know the full scope of Freya's operations. Which brings me to my final question. Will Titan Keeper Freya be in the Rootlands or Midnight in general? I previously speculated in my Freya video that she would be in the Rootlands. A quick rundown for you because that video is poorly recorded or edited is that Titan Keeper Freya and Titan Keeper Radan were the only Titan Keepers that did not appear in Legion in the defense of the world against the Burning Legion, including the defense of Ulduar. Radan would show up in the subsequent expansion of Battle for Azeroth, where he remembered his purpose for creation and was redeemed in this purpose and slaughtered old god minions, but Freya was absent. Freya did not defend Ulduar during the Legion invasion like the other keepers. She did not come to the aid of Odin. She did not answer the call from the Chamber of the Heart in BFA. She did not emerge for the awakening of the Dragon Isles, and she did not appear for the shattering of the veil separating life and death in the Shadowlands. Timekeeper Freya has been jealously guarded by Blizzard and withheld extensively, even where they've pulled every Titan Keeper together for a cameo. There is even recordings of Arcadius that appear in the War Within, but there is no Freya. And I still believe Freya should be in the Rootlands for a variety of reasons, but the most important one that is concrete in lore is the tale of Elunahir tells us that Eonor bid Freya to watch over and protect the roots of Elunahir so that life would grow. Freya now uses the model of the daughters of Eonor found on Elunaria, which seem to be constructs just like her as a keeper. Depictions of Freya in Hearthstone reflect this, and she looks like a troll-elf hybrid in both WoW and Hearthstone. So to me, it has been a theory of mine that the Harrandar may have evolved from the daughters of Eonor, or maybe Freya's Titan Watchers who she left to watch over the Rootlands. For me personally, it makes the most amount of sense for the origins of the Harrandar. My question again is, will Titan Keeper Freya be in the Rootlands? And if she isn't, where is she? And doesn't this look a lot like dress scenery when we look around here? See this like fall pattern, there's no leaves on the trees. You've got this one tree that's devoured night elf runes. It's got the thorns, the vines, the branches. It just looks very dress coded, doesn't it? It's very interesting to me though. And it's implied that in the dream version of this, that beneath this tree somewhere, the worgen are sleeping. The worgen that Malfurion and others put to sleep. It's been some time since I stepped foot in Blackwald. Tal'doren seems to have survived as well as it could. I've heard many a story of this place from the Kaldori. History goes as deep as the tree's roots here. Still it needs help as much as any other tree. I intend to keep it thriving. History goes deep. History goes as deep as the tree's roots here. Interesting, huh? Really, really interesting. I wonder if we'll be, seeing that, and I wonder if, down there somewhere the worgen are chilling out. Presumably, or what I assume is that maybe originally the worgen were sleeping in this night elf structure, and that the tree just kind of like devoured it. And yeah, if I remember correctly too, they said this was also a temple to Elune, so it is a holy place. It's got all this dust-like stuff going on, you know? The vines, the thorns, no leaves, the autumn colors. Yep, and the roots go deep. All right, thanks for watching.